From above, these places still exist. The streets are still there, the buildings are still standing, but the people are gone. Entire cities, emptied almost overnight, not destroyed, not erased, just abandoned. And yet, on the map, they're still there. Across the world, there are cities that once held thousands of residents, schools, hospitals, neighborhoods full of life. Then something happened: war, radiation, environmental disaster, or political decisions. The result was the same. The city didn't disappear, but the people did. And what remains today are silent urban landscapes, frozen in time. 4 cities that disappeared, yet still exist. City 1, Pripyat, Ukraine. The city of Pripyat was built in 1970, located in northern Ukraine near the border with Belarus. It was designed to house workers for the nearby Chernobyl nuclear power plant. At its peak, Pripyat had nearly 50,000 residents. It was a modern Soviet city: wide boulevards, apartment blocks, schools, swimming pools, an amusement park that was scheduled to open in May of 1986. But the opening day never came. April 26, 1986. At 1:23 in the morning, reactor number 4 at Chernobyl exploded. The worst nuclear disaster in human history. Radiation spread across the surrounding region. But the residents of Pripyat weren't immediately told. Life continued for almost 2 full days. Children played outside, workers commuted, people walked through radioactive dust without knowing it. Then the evacuation order came. Residents were told to leave temporarily. Buses arrived. They were given 2 hours to gather essentials. Most believed they would return in a few days. They never did. Pripyat has remained abandoned ever since. Today the city still stands, apartment buildings slowly collapsing, classrooms frozen in time. The famous Pripyat Ferris wheel, never used by the children it was built for. Nature has begun reclaiming the streets, but the radiation, though reduced, still lingers. Pripyat didn't vanish. It simply became uninhabitable. But nuclear disaster isn't the only way a city can disappear. Sometimes the cause is something far older, something buried beneath the ground. City 2, Centralia, Pennsylvania, 336 by Seard. Centralia was once a thriving mining town in Pennsylvania. In the early 1900s, it had over 2,000 residents. Coal mines surrounded the town. The local economy depended on them. Then, in 1962, something happened that would slowly erase the town. A fire started inside an abandoned coal mine. At first it seemed manageable. Officials attempted to extinguish it, but the fire had spread into underground coal seams. And once coal ignites underground, it can burn for decades, sometimes centuries. The fire beneath Centralia continued to grow, invisible, slowly moving through miles of tunnels. Over time, toxic gases began leaking through the ground. Roads cracked open, smoke emerged from the soil, carbon monoxide levels rose. One day, a child playing in his backyard nearly fell into a sinkhole that suddenly opened beneath him. The ground itself had become unstable. In the 1980s, the US government made a decision. Residents would be relocated. Homes were bought and demolished. Families moved away. The population shrank year after year. Today, fewer than 5 residents remain. Most of the town has been erased. Streets lead to empty fields. The underground fire is still burning. Experts estimate it could continue for another 200 years. Centralia didn't disappear overnight. It slowly became impossible to live there. But sometimes a city disappears not because of disaster, but because of politics. In the 1960s and early 1970s, Varosha was one of the most famous resort destinations in the Mediterranean. Located in the city of Famagusta, Cyprus, it attracted celebrities from around the world. Hotels lined the beaches, luxury apartments filled the skyline. Tourists arrived in huge numbers every summer. Then in 1974, everything changed. Political tensions between Greek and Turkish communities on the island erupted into conflict. Turkey launched a military intervention in northern Cyprus. As the conflict escalated, residents of Varosha fled. Within days, the entire district was evacuated. But unlike many war zones, people were never allowed to return. The Turkish military sealed the area, fences were built around the district. For decades, Varosha remained completely off-limits, a modern resort city, frozen exactly as it had been left. Hotels still stand. Apartments remain furnished. Cars sit rusting in garages. Nature has begun reclaiming the streets. In recent years, parts of the district have been partially reopened under strict control, but most of the city remains abandoned. Varosha didn't disappear because it was destroyed. It disappeared because access was forbidden, but sometimes cities vanish for a very different reason. They simply ran out of water. Deep in the Namib Desert, near the southern coast of Namibia, lies the ghost town of Kolmanskop. At the beginning of the 20th century, it was one of the richest towns in Africa. Diamonds had been discovered in the surrounding desert. Fortunes were made almost overnight. German settlers built a town in the middle of the sand. It had everything: a hospital, a ballroom, an ice factory, even one of the first X-ray stations in the southern hemisphere, used to prevent workers from smuggling diamonds. For a time, Kolmanskop flourished, but the diamonds didn't last forever. Richer deposits were discovered further south. Mining companies moved operations. Families followed. Slowly, the town emptied. By the 1950s, Kolmanskop had been completely abandoned. Without maintenance, the desert began reclaiming the buildings. Sand drifted through broken windows. Rooms filled with dunes. Hallways became buried beneath layers of desert. Today, Kolmanskop still stands. But every year, the sand moves further inside, a city gradually disappearing beneath the desert. Cities are often seen as permanent: concrete, steel, infrastructure designed to last generations. But history shows something different. Cities can vanish faster than we expect, sometimes because of disaster, sometimes because of economics, sometimes because of politics, and sometimes because nature simply takes the land back. Yet even after people leave, the cities remain. Silent, waiting, visible on the map, but no longer part of everyday life. These cities didn't disappear, they just stopped being inhabited. And across the world, there are many more places like them, still standing, still mapped, but no longer alive. Which abandoned city surprised you the most? And are there others that should be explored next?